Speaking of conversions, and it's very interesting as we roll into our next advanced kind of topic here, that the timeline on Insights for a brand new Performance Max mentions conversions being the end goal. I want to cover the most important thing to remember about Performance Max campaigns in Google Ads, and that is essentially what you said last week, which is to always remember that Performance Max campaigns are about one thing, and that's getting conversion. So why don't you kind of explain that, and then we'll talk about the different conversion tracking options you have.
Yeah. So let's say you're setting up a Google Ads search campaign, a display campaign. What's the very first thing you think of? You think of, how do I want to target the people that I want to convert? Very different thinking as opposed to setting up a Performance Max campaign. When you set that up, the very first thing that you decide and calculate is, how many conversions do you want? What is your goal? So it's a completely different reframing of how you think in Google Ads, at least for this campaign. So it's important to remember that this is goal oriented, because this, something like that does not exist. As we talked about last week, does not exist in a search campaign, a display campaign. You can't just say, I want new customers, and you just leave it at that. Throw a couple images and some suggestions, and it just starts delivering new customers. That is not the way that a search campaign works. So hitting those goals is the purpose of a Performance Max campaign, which is quite different.
Yeah, with a traditional search or remarketing or display campaign, I think everyone is thinking leads and conversions, but before that, you're thinking clicks. That's what everyone
Yeah.
thinks about. Show up on search. They're thinking about the keywords. They're thinking about what searches to show up on. They're thinking about their ad copy. Why don't I see my ad, and all that kind of stuff. And they're not so much thinking only about leads and the cost per lead goal or the return on spend goal. And so when it comes to Performance Max, like you're saying, the most important thing to remember is that this is all about conversions. Maybe they'll create Performance Max versions of like this automated system for like impressions or brand share or different kind of goals. But for right now, they're based on conversions. And so with that said, on your settings page, another way to say conversions these days is goals. And goals are essentially groups of different conversion actions. And so you just want to make sure that your goals, the type of conversions you're telling it to optimize for, are what you want. And that is set up in the goals section of the Performance Max campaign settings. Just make sure all those goals are the kinds of conversion actions you want. And then beyond that, this is doing things you can't even comprehend, the Performance Max, the bidding and all that. So if you don't traditionally put in values for your phone calls versus your lead forms versus your newsletter signups versus your email address clicks versus your chat boxes, we're talking lead gen, you should put in conversion values, because it can optimize for the more valuable conversions if you're willing to give it that data and put values on those conversions. So it's another thing to consider there.